Follow the path that empowers you to be your best self. Surround yourself with people who embrace your quirks, who don't settle, who seek a life without regret, who know how to win, but aren't afraid to fail. Be part of an elite network with those who know what success is all about. Be brave enough to have a fulfilled life. Trinity University. Discover. Follow the path that empowers you to be your best self. Surround yourself with people who embrace your quirks, who don't settle, who seek a life without regret, who know how to win, but aren't afraid to fail. Be part of an elite network with those who know what success is all about. Be brave enough to have a fulfilled life. Trinity University. Discover. Follow the path that empowers you to be your best self. Surround yourself with people who embrace your quirks, who don't settle, who seek a life without regret, who know how to win, but aren't afraid to fail. Be part of an elite network with those who know what success is all about. Be brave enough to have a fulfilled life. Trinity University. Discover, grow. Follow the path that empowers you to be your best self. Surround yourself with people who embrace your quirks, who don't settle, who seek a life without regret, who know how to win, but aren't afraid to fail. Be part of an elite network with those who know what success is all about. Be brave enough to have a fulfilled life. Trinity University. Discover, grow. Follow the path that empowers you to be your best self. Surround yourself with people who embrace your quirks, who don't settle, who seek a life without regret, who know how to win, but aren't afraid to fail. Be part of an elite network with those who know what success is all about. Be brave enough to have a fulfilled life. Trinity University. Discover, grow, become.
In old San Antonio.
Oh, yeah, Louis.
We have plenty of seats left if anyone wants to come and sit down. We'll start in just 1 minute. All right, welcome to everyone today. I'm Tom Payton, Director and Publisher for Trinity University Press, and on behalf of Trinity's President, Danny Anderson, and our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dee Jones, both of whom are out of town today, otherwise they certainly would be here, welcome to the Trinity University campus. Since the early days of planning for the Tricentennial, we've been excited and honored to be engaged in the publication of a book commemorating this year in a substantive, celebratory, and truly inquisitive way. We celebrate the result of that community effort today, involving a collaboration of more than 78 writers, advisors, readers, editors, and representatives of organizations. Many of those individuals are with us today, and we'll have time to acknowledge them and thank them. For now, real quick, please raise your hand if you're affiliated with the book in one of those capacities. I see a lot more out there. The effort was led by our project editor, Claudia Guerra, who's here today as well, and we'll have a chance to thank her, who did a fabulous and, I think, visionary job. Claudia, yes. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce Carlos Contreras, the Executive Director for the Tricentennial Commission.
Good morning, everybody. What a wonderful day this is, indeed. Thank you, Tom, and thank you and Trinity Press for all of the great work you did. We're here today, and this is wonderful that we're where we are. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Claudia Guerra, who has been tireless in her work, and it's been just all the attention to detail. It's been tremendous, Claudia. Thank you for all you did to make this happen. Also, to our book committee, members of the Tricentennial Book Committee, would you please raise your hand? Thank you all for all the work you did, creating the vision and seeing it through to the end. It was aided towards the end by Vanessa Hurd, who couldn't make it here today, but she did a tremendous job also of seeing it through to the end. And of course, our entire board, ably led by Cynthia Matson. Dr. Matson, thank you for all you did. All the rest of the board members, thank you. Applause for all of our board members. So our tricentennial year has been built upon a set of guiding principles to create a positive and lasting impact, to showcase our city's wonderful diversity, inclusiveness, and authenticity, and to celebrate our shared legacy and to create a legacy for the future of our city. The Tricentennial Commemorative Book, which we're here to celebrate today, exemplifies those guiding principles. In particular, it tells a complex story of inclusiveness that is San Antonio, brought to life by the wonderful 46 authors. And thank you, all of the authors who are here, for all of your hard work. Thank you very much. The book's release comes at an important point during our tricentennial year. We spent the first half of the year celebrating our history, highlighted by Commemorative Week on May 1 through May 6, where we celebrate our city's rich history, our cultural traditions. We welcomed international guests from 6 of our 11 sister cities, and of course we celebrated our military here. Yesterday was an important day for our city and our state, Juneteenth, and it marked an important turning point for our tricentennial year. It's time now to pivot and focus on what the tricentennial means for our future. And this book, 300 Years of San Antonio and Bexar County, is a perfect platform for this shift and this pivot. As we celebrate our shared history, its challenges, we recognize those challenges and how we can learn from the complex relationship that our communities had with many of our people here in our community, and to reflect on the future we're trying to build. As we move forward into the fall, we'll look forward to great opportunities to come on how we can discuss this book and how we can learn its lessons to help shape our future. It also, by the way, makes a great birthday and holiday gift. So thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to introduce our wonderful mayor, and thank him for all he did for our tricentennial as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, good morning. First, I have to say how great it is to be back home. All of you know my connection with Trinity University. This building wasn't standing probably 10 years ago, but what an extraordinary building it is, and itself part of San Antonio's future, the Center for Sciences and Innovation here at Trinity University. So first of all, thank you, Carlos, and thank you for your dedication and commitment to San Antonio. I have never been prouder of our tricentennial than I am in this moment. And despite some of the turbulence you may have heard about, the tricentennial for San Antonio has been nothing but highlights. And so thank you for that. Thank you to the San Antonio public for making it that way, and for all the people who had such optimism in our future. That in and of itself is a revolutionary act, and we are so proud of the future we're building. This past weekend, we welcomed their majesties, the King and Queen of Spain, to San Antonio to explore our shared cultural and historical ties, as well as discuss future collaboration and partnerships. Still, San Antonio's history is filled with even more stories and cultures. This book is a culmination of who we are as a community. More importantly, it lays the groundwork of who and what we as a community want to be going forward. Throughout our tricentennial year, we have reflected on the complexities of our history. We have studied the stories and journeys that make us one of the unique cities in the world. And we have continually asked ourselves, what's next? For ourselves and for San Antonio. We are a compassionate city that welcomes all with open arms. We are a 21st century city that is smart about our planning and our future. We're a friendly community, some say even the friendliest community on earth, filled with diverse cultures that come together to tell a unique story on the global stage. The book has a thematic approach that starts to tell the story, but there's still more to add to the history books for San Antonio and Bexar County. Thank you to the Tricentennial Commission, our chair, Dr. Cynthia Matson, a partnership between the city, county, and the private sector that helped us bring new, lasting legacies to our community, like this book, and the new Lincoln Park splash pad that opened this past weekend, just to name a few. San Antonio's history, its story, is written each and every day by every resident and visitor, both past and present, who have made a lasting impact on our community. This book is just the beginning of telling our story. And oh, what a story it will continue to be. I can't wait to turn the pages. So now please join me in welcoming my colleague, the great Judge Nelson Wolff.
Well, Ron, thank you, and thanks for your tremendous leadership during this tricentennial year. It's been an exciting year so far. I want to thank Tom Payton first and his staff. You can see firsthand how dedicated they are to quality, how dedicated they are to making sure numerous voices were heard during this publication of this book. And I'm just proud of what Trinity Press has represented here in our community. Great work Cynthia and the team are doing with the tricentennial. Carlos has jumped in there and took control and got this engine running right down the road, man, like it should run. We've got such a wonderful history here. It's just exciting to experience it and to go through what we've gone through these first 6 months of the year, and we've got more to come. Going all the way back to 1718 with the Presidio and the Mission de Valero along the San Pedro Creek, the Bexar County being named after the Duke de Beja, who came to us and visited with us, he and the Duchess, as we opened the first section of the San Pedro Creek, that attempts in a different way to do what Trinity Press is doing. Telling the story of the confluence of our civilizations that came to San Antonio, doing it through artwork along the creek, doing it through inscriptions, doing it through design and walkways, just as much about our history and how we come together as it is about the waterway. So it's another way of telling the the story of San Antonio. And then from that founding to come along 1718 to 1731, was it 16 families? Is that right, Marty? 16 families coming from the Canary Islands, landing in Veracruz, going over the upper spur, Orizaba, down through the Valley of Mexico, through Carreta and through San Juan Bautista, and coming to San Antonio and setting up our first city government in March of 1731 when they got here. Two key parts of our history directly related to Spain. And as the mayor said, we were excited when the King and Queen of Spain decided to come here. They were here just last week, or they just left a few days ago. And that in itself is an interesting history. When we were founded here, Felipe V, the first Bourbon king of Spain, whose grandfather was Louis XIV, the king of France, the Sun King of France, who built Versailles, and Felipe V was born at Versailles and became the first Bourbon king of Spain. And so here we are 300 years later with Felipe VI coming to San Antonio. So we've had quite a long string there of royalty who's touched San Antonio and made it what we are today. And as Mayor Nuremberg said, that rich history that we have, it's important to reflect on that history, to pause. And this is a great year to pause and see where we came from, and hopefully we'll know where we're going based on where we came from, and to understand the history of our civilizations and how we respect each other and how we all work together to make San Antonio a great American city. We're on the right path. Thank you very much for all the contribution you've done and the work that you've done to make this book possible. Now, Lionel Sosa, we all know Lionel, very bright guy. His wife may be a little smarter, but that's okay. You think so? Lionel is our appointee from Bexar County on to the Tricentennial, and it was his job to oversee the publication of this book and to try to get everybody moving in the right direction to get that done. But he's made so many great contributions to San Antonio, and we're so proud of him. So Lionel, would you like to come up and say a few words about it?
Thank you, Nelson, a good friend and an even bigger historian that I ever knew. You are amazing. And thank you, Mayor, for your vision. Thank you, Carlos, for all you've done. Thank you, Tom, for having Trinity University be the publisher of this wonderful, wonderful publication. I got Tom sent me an advanced copy last night at home, and I had just a couple of hours to kind of thumb through it. And I think as you look at this book, you'll probably want to buy maybe one or two copies today. But once you look at it and once you see the depth of the stories and the careful way in which Claudia took all of these stories and made them into one, made them make sense, brought all of these authors together. How many authors in total, Claudia, did you bring together? 46 or 47. Okay, Chico says 47, so it's 47. To bring all of these folks together and have each of them write a piece, and some of them sent her almost a book, which she had to edit and find the pieces to use, and then work with them to make sure that there were no bruised egos out there and all of that kind of thing, as we want every author to be happy. I am very proud of their contributions to this book because it is one of a kind. And I would advise you today, if you're going to buy one copy, buy 10, buy 25, because you are going to want them. This is going to be a gift that you're going to want to give to your friends, to your family, to as many people as you know, and we want to make sure that you take advantage of this before it's they're all gone. Because Tom, you printed 5,000, right? And then I think you might be printing another 4,000, but those will be gone very, very soon. So please order your book. You'll be very proud that you did. I really want to thank Vanessa. Carlos mentioned from the city staff. She was a wonderful lady that oversaw all of the details, particularly at the last moments, working with Claudia. We appreciate all the work of the book committee, particularly Betty Boucher, because she was there to make sure that it was a nice balance between city and county. And this is a partnership between the city and the county, an equal partnership, and I'm so glad that you were there to make sure that everything worked as it should. But Brenda Pacheco, I'll tell you what, she's the vice chair of this book committee, and boy, she was there with that sharp eye, making darn sure that nothing was left out that needed to be in there. Hector Cárdenas, another wonderful, wonderful person. Faith Radel, of course, Chico Chiscano, Marta Tijerina, and of course, the rest of the chairs, particularly Cynthia. I just love you for your leadership. Thank you. Thank you, Father David. Thank you, Chico. Thank you, John Folks. We appreciate you all and all of the committee that made this possible. And I just want you to understand how proud we are, how proud you will be of this book, and how long a lasting effect it will be. I do want to do one thing before I turn it over, and that is, you see this 300 logo everywhere, the big 300. Well, the man who designed that logo is here. Keone is standing right there, and he is the unknown person whose logo now will live forever. Thank you so much. Now I would like to, if you would turn in your book, if you already have one, to page 34, there's a chapter there called The Women and Children of Spanish San Antonio. And the author of that is Amy Porter, one of the many 46 contributors and authors who penned this piece, and she will do a reading from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lionel. I hope I was not one of the authors that gave you a hard time, Claudia. Okay. The early years of the settlements that would later become San Antonio were difficult and tenuous for families who moved onto the far frontier of northern New Spain. At first glance, the early settlers appear to be almost exclusively male, coming as missionaries and soldiers. Yet the presidial soldiers brought families, and the missions housed Indian women and children, as well as men. Soon, families from the Canary Islands arrived, and these women and children created the framework for the future growth of the Villa of San Fernando de Bexar. Although the men held the political offices and ran the churches and missions, women too played key roles in the community. It was not just men who were heads of households. Many widows headed households in Bexar. Indeed, women and children played critical roles in shaping the history of the settlement. While their lives are less studied than those of men, the practical and spiritual lives of these families provide great insight into the experiences of the early residents of Spanish Bexar. The first women, aside from indigenous women, to come to Bexar in the Spanish period accompanied their soldier husbands and fathers. The presidio that was established in 1718 brought a small contingent of soldiers to protect Mission Valero, established that same year. Some of these soldiers had families who moved with them. In addition, there were artisans and their families who would help the community to survive and sustain itself. These settlers came from parts of Coahuila in Nuevo León and continued Spain's movement north. After all, Spain's interest, besides missionization, was in settling the frontier. While soldiers moved to an area for work, the arrival and settlement of families could lead to the creation of stable towns. The presidial families offered a start for the Spanish in the Bexar area, but more settlers were needed. Historian Jesus F. de la Teja notes that by 1730, there were about 40 married couples in the San Antonio area. Throughout the 1730s, the Spanish government recruited families from the Canary Islands to move to the San Antonio area. These 15 families brought women and children, and 2 women were widowed on the journey. Maria Rodriguez Robaina arrived with 6 children between the ages of 1 month and 13 years, meaning that she had a child on the long track. The other widow was Mariana Delgado Meliano, who had 3 children between the ages of 3 and 16. From the early days of the Spanish settlements, such widows headed households. For the settlement to become permanent, women had to be a part of the Spanish government's plan so that families could grow, establish roots in the area, and help the town to develop an economy. Despite this clear plan, the realities of frontier life made growth of the settlement slow and difficult. Death was a constant companion in Spanish Bexar. Mortality rates were high, especially for infants, and as a result, life expectancy was low, generally in the 30s throughout the Spanish period. Indian raids, disease, accidents, and dangerous travel could lead to early death, especially because this was an area with few doctors. Childbirth was precarious as well. Numerous families lost children, and many men and women were widowed during their lives. Because of this, second and third marriages were common, as were families composed of children from different marriages. Orphans were adopted into the families of relatives, godparents, neighbors, and friends. In this manner, the community managed the difficult demographic situation. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit here. Besides coping with death, Bexar families had to manage other difficulties of frontier life. Many items and materials, such as metals and paper, were scarce on the frontier. Homes were simply furnished, and furniture was often constructed without nails. Instead, pieces fit together like perfect puzzles. Families with more wealth tended to live in stone houses, and many other residents lived in less permanent jacales, while perhaps building a more enduring structure later. Women prized their possessions that helped them in their labors. Wills and inventories from the period attest to the household metates, manos, pots, and other kitchen items that women owned. Jewelry and books were scarce, yet some women had these belongings. Despite the difficulty of being far from markets, the small community found ways to survive through these challenging times. And I'll stop there. Hopefully that piqued your interest to pick up the book and read more.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you to everyone who's joined us here today. Thank you to Claudia Guerra. Thank you to all of you. Please stay with us, and as Lionel, I whispered, you can take the guy out of marketing, but you can't take the marketing out of the guy. And as please look at the books, buy books. Contributors are asked and for each other and for everyone else here to join us in the back for communal book signing. We have a reception to this side. Thank you very much for coming today.